Hello to you. I do hope you're well. I'm Wardle, and in this video, I'm going to share how I use the language of greatness and the idea that greatness is a choice to motivate students to be their very best. So this is all about championing and challenging students to make the maximum progress possible and fulfill their full potential. And it's designed to be, I would say, four things. The first one is aspirational. It's about creating a culture of high aspiration so that students strive to not only become their best, but ultimately the best in the country. It's also designed to be actionable. And I'm going to share in a minute my acronym for being great, so that it's all about explicitly, teaching and outlining to students exactly what greatness looks like. It's also designed to be autonomous. So it's about instilling students with self-responsibility, and it's also, very importantly, about accountability. So again, it's about students being prepared to take accountability for their choices and for the outcomes of those choices, so that they know that they are sovereign over themselves, and so that with hard work and resilience, they can achieve great things, not only in their studies, but also in the future. So as I say, this is all about students being inspired and motivated to become their very best and fulfill their full potential. And so the first thing I want to show you is the acronym that I use when I introduce this idea to students. So obviously it is so important, isn't it, as teachers, that we are being as explicit as we can in everything that we do, because students need to know exactly what we expect from them. So when I talk to them about the idea that greatness is a choice, I always introduce to them my acronym, which sets out what being great actually looks like. And it is so important that whenever you do talk about greatness, you are then really explicit about what that looks like. You need to outline what greatness actually looks like in different contexts. So for in the classroom, the corridors, in the assembly hall, and in wider society. Now, this acronym is intended to be very actionable, and it's intended to be very easy to remember. So, I use obviously the 5 letters of the word great to set out what greatness should look like and what it would look like in your everyday life in terms of how you are conducting yourself in school. So G, the first one, is give it 100%. And this is the idea that achieving greatness is all about putting in effort. And that's based on Dr. Carol Dweck's idea that effort is the key to mastery. So my students know that in whatever they're doing, I expect them to give it 100%, to put in 100% effort. I'm not expecting them to get 100% in every test, but what I am expecting them to do is try their very best. So, the first step, if you like, towards achieving greatness is to put in 100% effort. The second one then is respect everybody. It is so important that we are explicitly teaching students to be respectful, and that we're outlining to them exactly what that looks like, so that they need to speak politely, that they need to conduct themselves with courtesy and consideration for others. For example, that being great means being considerate of others and being respectful towards every single person that you meet, both in school and in wider society. The third one is engage positively. Our students need to be optimistic, and they need to believe that, with hard work, they can achieve great things. And so, I always tell students, I want you to be positive, have an open mind, cultivate that growth mindset, believe that you can. So, when we create that culture within our classrooms, and when we instill that mindset within our students, we really do unlock their potentials, and we allow them to achieve extraordinary things, because they don't write themselves off. They don't rule themselves out. Instead, they put in the effort, they give it a go, and they contribute in a really positive way. The next one, the fourth one, is to arrive on time. And I think this is something we really must instill in our students, because when they go out into the world of work, punctuality does matter. They need to be at work on time. And so we need to get them into that good habit from day one, that they need to take responsibility for being in school and being in school on time. And, you know, that is a really important habit, isn't it, that we need to instill in our students, because punctuality really does matter. And then finally, for me, the most important one is take responsibility. As I've said, I don't expect students to be perfect. I believe that perfection is actually impossible. But what I do expect them to be is self-responsible, that when they do make a mistake, and of course that will inevitably happen, we're only human, that they will take full responsibility for it, and that they will then learn from it. It is so important that we're not looking for excuses or somebody else to blame. It is important that we teach students that being an honourable person and being a successful person means being prepared to hold up your hands, accept that you made a mistake, and then endeavour to repair the relationship if that's involved hurting somebody else, or learning from it if it's, you know, stood in the way of your own success. So, you know, it's really important that students don't see, you know, taking responsibility as a sign of weakness, for example, or as something that's going to embarrass you, but actually that is the hallmark of a successful person who is destined for great things in their lives. And of course, if we can get students into the habit of taking responsibility whilst they're in school, that will set them up for success in the future, because they will believe that they are responsible for their own success. So they will believe that if they put in the hard work, if they treat other people politely, and if they remain resilient despite life's challenges and the adversities they face, they will become an excellent individual who makes an excellent contribution to the common good of society. And as I've put at the bottom here, it is so important that, you know, greatness is made actionable. There is no point just going around saying, be great, choose greatness. You know, we've got to be really clear with students. We've got to be really explicit with students in terms of outlining exactly what greatness looks like in different contexts. So, for example, in the classroom, greatness means sitting up straight, you know, putting your hand up to speak, you know, and making positive contributions when you can. In the community, for example, we then need to explain that greatness means, you know, offering your seat to somebody who needs it on the tube or on the bus. And, you know, it means being considerate of others, being polite to people, saying good morning, good afternoon to people, etc. So, you know, always make it actionable whenever you are trying to encourage students to be their best. Really, really clearly teach them exactly what you expect to see from them, because then you can reward them and you can praise them when you do see those things. So yes, that is a top tip from me. Always make it actionable. And that is what I've tried to do there with the GREAT acronym. So I just want to give you a bit of background about what greatness is a choice is trying to achieve. So why do I use this mantra? Why do I introduce this idea? And as I mentioned at the start, it's about ensuring that every single student makes the maximum progress possible and fulfills their full potential. You know, it's designed to be aspirational. It's intended to be motivational. It's about unlocking their potential and helping them to flourish, both academically, but also as an individual. You know, it's about their development as an excellent, well-rounded and grounded young person who can go out into the world and make a difference in society. It's about championing and challenging every student to become the best that they can possibly be, to be the best version of themselves, but also to be the best in the country. You know, we want students to aspire to be the best, and we want them to believe that they can achieve. You know, a really important part of this is teaching students that you do believe in them and showing them that you do believe they can achieve, because, you know, when students do have that sense that, okay, my teacher wants me to do well, they believe in me, that helps to motivate them. It's also great for classroom management, because as I say, you can then hold students to account for being their best. You know, when you are managing your classroom and when you are setting out high expectations for conduct in your classroom, you can frame it around that language that you believe in them, you want them to be their very best, and so you're going to hold them to high standards. You know, you have high standards and high expectations of your students because you have high aspirations for them. You want them to be their best and you want them to be the best. You want them achieving the grade 9s, the A stars, You want them to go on to achieve exceptional things in their lives. It's also really important, bullet point 3, because it instills students with self-belief. They believe that they can achieve great things, that success is not just for other people that you see in TV or, on social media, but that success is something they can achieve. It's about self-confidence as well, that idea that with hard work and resilience, we can all achieve great things. And importantly, it's about self-responsibility. Again, it's about giving students that sense of power and that sense of autonomy, that it is their choices that will contribute to their success in school, but also in life. And that is very important in terms of instilling not only that autonomy and that sense of sovereignty over themselves and their actions, but also that accountability, that students then hold themselves to account for being their best, making the right choices, and therefore achieving great things. And then fourthly, but very importantly, it's about creating a culture of high aspiration and personal responsibility. So for me, for example, as the head of year, I found this is very effective in terms of motivating the year group and also ensuring that the year group take responsibility for their choices, for their actions, and for their success. If I am having restorative conversations with students, I will always use that language of choice and that idea of personal responsibility. The idea that in this classroom, in this year group, or in this school, we work hard to achieve great things. This is a place where extraordinary things happen. This is a place, this is a classroom, this is a school where people achieve great things. And that is brilliant for the development of a culture, but it's also brilliant for that classroom management when you're talking to students one-to-one, because you can say that, well, in my classroom, in my year group, in our school, we do aspire to achieve great things. And I want you to achieve great things. So that is why I'm holding you to high standards. That is why I have high expectations of you. So, greatness is a choice. It's about individual students making the maximum progress possible and fulfilling their full potential, but it's also about creating a culture of high aspiration and personal responsibility within a classroom, within a year group, and of course, within a school. So just to conclude, I want to just outline for you the 4 things that I think that greatness is a choice achieves. So these are the 4 A's, if you like, the 4 aims of this. And it's about being aspirational. It's about giving students motivation that is actionable. It's about autonomy, and it's about accountability. So these are, as I say, the 4 aims of the idea. So first of all, aspirational. The language and the idea of greatness is aspirational for students. It gives them something to aspire towards and work towards. So it is designed primarily to inspire and motivate students. And that is very, very important. If we want them to work hard, we need them to believe that they're working towards something, don't we? We want them to aspire to achieve great things. So my tip for this is to set ambitious goals for your students. We want everyone achieving grade 9s. We want you achieving A stars, for example, and then use role models of people, who have achieved greatness. Now, that could be high profile people who have achieved great things in their specialism, Marcus Rashford in football, for example. But also you could use examples of previous students that you've taught. You could talk to them about a student who has achieved great things or who has gone on to achieve great things. And you can talk to students about how they did that. What did that student do whilst they were in school, whilst they were in lessons, which meant they did go on to achieve those great things. So, make it aspirational and then make that really, actionable for students by giving them role models who they can emulate. Now, talking of actionable, that brings me on to the second aim, because greatness should be explicitly outlined to students. So you need to outline, explain, and model what greatness looks like in each context. So as I said before, for example, in your classroom, you need to be really clear in terms of what greatness looks like. You might actually, do a diagram, for example, or get an image on the board of how students should be sat and what you expect them to be doing at all times during your lesson in terms of what greatness looks like in the classroom. And my tip with this one is be explicit about what greatness looks like. Be as clear as you can and be as explicit as you can. Make it concrete and make it practical, so that you're not just saying be great, but you're actually teaching students how to be great. The next one, the third one, is about autonomy. It's about students being autonomous. And that key phrase, choose greatness, teaches students that they have choices. Everything they do is a result of personal choice. So it is therefore their choice to work hard and be their best. They are sovereign over themselves, as John Stuart Mill said, and this is the philosophy teacher in me coming out now, over your own body and mind, the individual is sovereign. So, we need to instill students with that sense of autonomy, that idea that they are responsible for what they do. And so if they choose to work hard, if they choose to be resilient, they can achieve great things. And my tip with this one is to use the language of choice at all times, so acknowledge and praise right choices, but also as part of your classroom management, make sure that you are calling out wrong choices. And that's very helpful because it separates the choice from the child. So when you are obviously, dealing with negative behaviors, you are obviously separating the person from the choice that they've made. So if you say to them, that was the wrong choice, how will you learn from this? You are, I think very effectively managing classroom behavior here, because you are separating the child. You're saying to the child, I believe you can be great. You've made the wrong choice. Why did you make that choice today? And what are you going to do to make sure next time you don't make that choice again? So, I find that very helpful actually in terms of classroom management, but then also I found that helpful as a form tutor when holding my students to account. And I find that helpful as a head of year as well. And then finally, again, leading on quite nicely is accountability. With autonomy, you therefore have accountability, because it's the idea that greatness is chosen and it is achieved through hard work. And students can therefore be held to account for the choices that they've made, and they can learn that actions have consequences, that if you work hard, you will achieve great things. But if you are unkind to other people, for example, or if you don't put in the effort, then that's not going to benefit you either. It's not going to contribute to your success. And that, of course, instills students with self-responsibility. They take that responsibility for their actions. They feel accountable for themselves. And that is so important, in terms of preparing them for the future. And setting them up for future success, so that when they have more independence at A level, for example, they do motivate themselves. They do say to themselves, listen, if I work hard, I can achieve. And then also, of course, when they're in the world of work, when they are adults going out into the world, they are accountable for their own actions, and again, that's very powerful. When we instill them with self-responsibility in school, that sets them up for success in the real world when they go out into the world, so that they can flourish, they can thrive, and they can contribute to the common good of society. And my tip for this one is tell students that you will hold them to account for being their best because you believe in them. Remember, you are setting high standards and you have high expectations because you have high aspirations for your students. It's because you believe in them, it's because you want them to do well, that you are holding them to those high standards, and you are holding the line on the school behaviour policy. You want them to be accountable for their actions. You are here to support them, you're here to champion them, but you're also here to challenge them, that when they're not being their best and when they're making the wrong choices, you are going to call that out, because you want them to succeed. You want them to be their best. You want them to be the best. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's been insightful. Do let me know in the comments how you create a culture of aspiration in your classroom and also in your school. And, let me know any tips that you have as well in terms of motivating students to fulfill their full potential and become their very best. But thank you for joining me. Have a great day and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.